Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Soul Seeds, where Carleigh is my guest expert for today. And Carleigh is a holistic mental wellness coach. And the topic we are going to discuss today is embracing anxiety to overcome it. So thank you, Carleigh, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And as someone who has dealt with anxiety, the term embracing anxiety sounds like the last thing you want to do when you're in it. So can you please explain how we should embrace it?
Absolutely. So I like to think of embracing anxiety as kind of taking bite-sized pieces out of our fears. Now, the reason that it's so important to embrace anxiety, this is probably where I should start this conversation, is because when we experience an emotion, anxiety, for example, and we try to ignore it or pretend it's not happening or say, no, I feel fine, everything's fine, and kind of push it down and repress that emotion, it doesn't go away. And
Mhm.
studies actually show that with anxiety, when we try to ignore it and pretend it's not there and pretend that everything is fine, it actually comes back even stronger. And this is where, if you're ignoring it and then you get triggered, it can turn into like a full on panic attack, or it can turn into a really heightened experience. Whereas if you allow yourself to feel the emotion, feel it in your body, accept that it's present, and don't necessarily let it take over, then
Mhm.
you can start to move past it. Now, when I talk about embracing anxiety, what I really mean is pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone to, make yourself uncomfortable intentionally and learn to find calm in that space. So,
Mhm.
I'm not saying that tomorrow you should go and face your biggest fear and do the thing that you know is going to be super triggering for you. That's
Right.
probably not the best place to start, but overcoming fears and overcoming anxieties is, like I said, taking these bite-sized pieces out of our fear. So, for example, if social anxiety is something that you struggle with, a
Mhm.
bite-sized little piece of that could be to smile at a stranger when you're walking down the street. And
Mhm.
you know it's going to be uncomfortable, but you go into it knowing, okay, this is not going to feel great in my body. I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway and see what happens. 9 times out of 10, what's going to happen is that stranger is going to smile back. You're going to have a positive experience, and you're going to start to learn, oh, this isn't act.
It's about learning to
So
be uncomfortable or, yeah, comfortable with the uncomfortable, really.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Learning to find comfort in that discomfort. And when you do that, you actually just start to expand your comfort zone. And then if you want to continue facing those fears, they become larger and larger things that you're starting to tackle. And you learn
Right.
that you are so capable of so much more than you realize when you don't let anxiety hold you back and you instead choose to embrace it and do the uncomfortable thing to find growth.
Mhm. And you can also learn by experiencing or allowing that anxiety to be there. You can learn like, okay, where is it actually coming from? Because anxiety, like it's in itself is not necessarily a negative thing. It holds a message for us. It and that message is coming from somewhere. So I think you can also learn from that experience, like, okay, I'm uncomfortable and even a bit anxious in this experience, situation, encounter. Why is that there? So learning to like open up to that message, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is absolutely true if anxiety is not something that is always present for you.
Hmm. Right.
For someone who struggles with generalized anxiety disorder, which is generally when you kind of feel anxious most of the time,
Mhm.
there isn't always a logical reason. And then the trick is that your brain will come up with reasons why you might be feeling anxious and kind of attach a situation to
Hmm.
the anxiety to kind of prove yourself right. Like, I am right in feeling anxious because this must be the reason why I'm anxious. So, like, if you smile at that stranger and they don't smile back,
Hmm.
well, this person has a problem with me and that's why I'm anxious. When actually that probably had nothing to do with you and they were just not having a good moment. And
Yeah.
but our brains make up these stories, right? But you're right,
Right.
when you don't experience anxiety all the time and something is coming up for you, we're biologically designed to experience this emotion to keep us safe so that we don't just jump off a cliff or we don't go up to the saber-toothed tiger. Like the anxiety is a survival tactic, but it's when it's used, when we experience it out of context and in a way that it's not actually serving our greatest good, that's when it starts to become a problem. And that's when we can start to face it and say, okay, hold on. I don't want this to hold me back. So how can I lean into it
Right.
and start to expand my comfort zone around it?
And start to feel more safe in your own skin, in your own body and mind, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've myself have dealt with PTSD. And when I was dealing with this, I had to also embrace my anxiety because it would pop up at the strangest moments, even when it wasn't really necessary, just because my brain made up these stories like, oh, it could be unsafe.
Yeah.
But when your logical mind knows it's very safe here. So
Yeah.
I literally had to tell my anxiety, like, it's okay. Thank you for sending me this message or warning me, but I'm actually safe. So it's almost like rewiring your brain and telling your brain, like, it's okay.
Exactly. And the act of embracing your anxiety is exactly that. It's choosing to rewire your brain using your conscious mind. So going into a space where logically you're safe,
Right.
but physically you don't feel safe. You can feel that anxiety arising. And this is why I am obsessed with adventure sports. I'm a rock climber and a highliner, and I do these things that I put myself into situations where I am facing my fears in a very head-on way. And it's scary, but then logically I know that I'm safe and I can enter that situation and say, okay, I feel anxiety happening in my body. I feel shaky. I feel nervous. How can I remind myself that I'm safe and slow my breathing and start to calm down my nervous system so that my anxiety can go away and I
Right.
can learn that actually I am safe here and I can start to feel safe. And this is exactly that. It's rewiring your brain and it's expanding your comfort zone to learn what you can truly do when you don't let anxiety win.
Oh yeah, that's very, and it's very empowering when you actually take that first step and lean into that anxiety and know, like, okay, wait, I'm actually fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. It
And what
feels like
would
such a
you?
rush, you know?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, oh, maybe I can do even more.
Yeah.
And what would you advise someone who's at the start of this and who, when hearing this conversation, is like, oh my gosh, embracing anxiety? How do I do that? Where do I start? So what would you advise them?
I would say the first step is to accept your anxiety when it arises instead of trying to ignore it or pretend that it's not there.
Hmm.
Acknowledge it, just like you were saying, you would say, "Okay, I see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the messages." Like acknowledge that it's there. Admit
Yeah,
to yourself, "I'm feeling anxious." And
right.
maybe you can do something to start to process that emotion. Maybe it's journaling about whatever's going on for you or moving your body to help move some of that emotion through or whatever sort of way helps you to process that emotion. Scream into a pillow if you need to. Find a healthy outlet for it, but ultimately accept that it's present
Hmm.
and then start to think about, is this feeling actually serving me or is it holding me back from something that I want to do? Because a lot of the time it's probably not really serving you, and
Hmm.
it's up to you to acknowledge that and decide if you want to move past it.
Mm. And I would also say, like, it's important to not identify as an anxious person,
Yeah.
but only say, like, okay, a part of me is feeling anxious about this. Not all of you is.
100%. That's such a powerful mindset shift
Mm.
to switch from thinking I am anxious to thinking I am feeling anxious or I
Right.
am experiencing anxiety. It's removing you from the anxiety. This is this thing that happens, but it's not all of you. That's a really
Exactly.
important point. Yeah.
Mm. And it's also about really not labeling it or judging it even. Like, okay, I'm feeling anxious, so I must be weak, or tying all these negative associations with it, right?
Right. It's a natural part of the human experience, and
Yeah.
some of us experience it more than others, and we just have a much more challenging time to overcome, you know, our basic fears, but it is still so possible when we put ourselves back into the driver's seat and really
Hmm.
use our logical and analytical mind to say, is this situation safe? If yes, then how can I calm down my nervous system, because I know that I'm okay and I want my body to feel okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
you have to feel safe to actually be safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you don't feel safe in your body, then it's, yeah, you'll be looking around like, where's the danger? Even if there is
Yeah,
no danger.
yeah. I always say, like, try to be aware of how you relax, because when you relax your body, I think it sends a signal to your brain saying that you're safe. Really.
100% it does. It's a feedback loop. When your
Right.
brain is saying we're not safe, your body feels that too. And then your
Mhm.
body's saying we're not safe, and it sends feedback back to your brain. So they're
Yeah.
constantly in communication. And just like you said, when you can learn to start to calm down your body, your
Mhm.
mind will start to calm down, and same way in reverse.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much,
Mm.
Carly, for today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.